When I was 10, I started playing, and when I turned 12, I think I heard Cream, you know, Wheels of Fire or something like that, and Jimi Hendrix, and I was just like, the guitar was just talking to me. I used to get in a trance listening to Clapton play, you know, those live tapes. So I was like 15, and Eric Clapton was one of my biggest guitar idols at that time that I had listened to learn how to play. And it just so happened that, you know, I met him, which was a total fluke in my mind. And we got together and played, and it turned out that he loved the way I played, and he wanted me to join his band. I already knew Greg Raleigh. I'd been hanging out with him for about 4 months, and different members of Santana, so I felt, you know, naturally a lot closer to them because I've known him for longer. And Eric wanted me to move to London, and I just got the feeling that his band, Derek and the Dominoes, was not going to be around for that very much longer. Our manager right now, Walter Herbert, Herbie, was Carlos Santana's and my guitar roadie.
Herbie guided me into the Steve Miller Band, and in the meantime, he had joined the Santana organization as a production and sound technician. And in the process, he had worked his way up in their organization where towards the end of his term with them, he was actually aiding in the managing of the group. In the process, he got to know Neil Schon and Greg Raleigh, who were with Santana until 1972.
I left Santana in '72, and Herbie was just, I don't know what he was doing during that time period, and I was trying to get another band together for 2 years. And finally I caught back up with him, and he told me that he thought we should, you know, get together and start a new band. And he suggested to get together with Ross and George Tickner. And that was the beginning of his career and my career in this band.
Our preference was more instrumental, and all that happened after Next is we decided consciously to look towards more singing and more song-oriented music. And in that process, Steve Perry came along. Steve Perry was in LA with a group that was falling apart, but it had recorded material, and he just happened to send a tape to our office, to Herbie, of his performance with the group.
So I sent him a tape, and Herbie liked it, phoned me back, sent me to Denver, Colorado, and that's where I wrote some tunes with Neil on the Infinity album before I knew I was recording Infinity.
Right.
It went real fast.
And that's what inspired us to ask him to come up and join us on the road, not as a performer, but to take extra time to see how things were possible as far as songwriting and singing.
I was hanging out on the last leg of the ELP Journey tour, but they were playing and I was not. I was in the wings, hanging out.
From Infinity on, I look at it as the second half. I think it's a more complete group. It's a more versatile group now because we have the vocal capability as well.
Well, from Jean-Luc, I went on the road with Ronnie Montrose, and Ronnie Montrose was the opening act for Journey for a 3-month tour, the Infinity tour. And through that time, I met Steve Perry and Neil Schon and got to be good friends with them. And at the time that Ainsley left the band, they asked me to join. It just happened that way, similar to how Jonathan came into the band, being with the Babies.
With the Babies, I replaced the guy. With Journey, I'm replacing a founding member, Greg Raleigh.
And with Jonathan, I felt like it was really healthy for us to have a little new blood at that one time. Not that Greg wasn't sufficient. I love Greg, you know, and I'm going to do an album with him. But the chemistry in the band between Stephen and Jonathan and myself and the rest of the guys right now feels really fresh.
Neil would sort of kid around. One time I drove in a limo with Herbie and Neil, and Neil said, "This is our new keyboard player, Herbie." Herbie goes, "Right on," and he gave him 5. And I just threw me for a loop. I said, what are they talking about? I didn't want to. I looked back and I said, okay.
The band knew it had to make some musical changes. And with the advent of Jonathan Cain, that helped that move, you know, come to its own. Because the band knew it had to do something. We had done what we had taken that sound as far as we could, all the way up to Departure, and did our live album, and still doing the same stuff, basically. And then we had to make a sound change. Otherwise, you dry up and blow away or something, you know.
I think musically, though, we're really starting to stretch out. I feel like with the last album with Jonathan, like the doors just, sort of open. We have, different chemistry now just within this last year. I mean, one person can change the chemistry in a band dramatically.
Life on the road is rather rigorous. I can say that it's become a little more comfortable and a little smoother in the recent years, where we've had the popularity and the power to choose where and when we play and how to logistically set it up so it's as smooth and as comfortable and organized as possible.
The worst part of the road anymore to me, or just this lifestyle, is certainly not the music or performing for the people. That's the only thing that's keeping me doing it. It's my love for that, and the high that I get off of turning all those people on to myself and everybody else. I mean, I enjoy it because I've done it all my life, but it's really different. I don't have that much time to do other things that I would like to do.
When you go on the road, you got a limo driver picks you up, you got someone that's taking you to the airport, and someone that's flying you once you get to the airport, and then the other end, you got the same thing picking you up. You never get to drive anywhere. So when I get home, sometimes I think I know how to drive, and I've lost my chops. And I get on the freeway, and it can be pretty squirrely.
We have nice hotel room accommodations, and everyone is very cooperative to helping us. We're at a position where transportation is no problem for any of us, so it's not a problem for me. If we were driving around in a van and staying in Motel 6, it might be a problem. But right now, no, it isn't a problem.
There's just a feeling of being home. It's home that you just can't explain. It's just something you miss. Because you're in a hotel every night, a different hotel, a different bed, and different pillows, and different everything. After a while, it can become a little bit of a drag. But once you get out, you get used to it. I think you get callous to it, sort of. This album, I collaborated with Jay on all the lyrics. And I must admit, it's been a very, very fun improvement.
We just got a flow going, when you write a song, and it just was so easy. Steve had a line, I had a line. We collaborated on the next line, and it was just something that wasn't it was just happening, flowing.
Jonathan Cain had Open Arms written the music for it already. I think he had that written for a couple of years or longer. And he had submitted it to a few groups he was in, and everybody kind of thought it was too cheeky, was his words,
And Steve and I were talking over at the office one day just about women and about relationships and about, love and marriage. It was one of those kind of weird days, And so he said, why don't you come over to the house, we'll write. So I played him this song on the piano, and he fell in love with it immediately. And he says, why don't we just finish it? And I said, okay, let's go ahead and finish it. So
I thought it was a great song. I don't care what, they said, I talked him into working on it. And so he had the music and the melody basically all done. All we needed really was to come up with the lyrical content, and I changed the melody very little, when I finally ended up singing it to adapt it to myself. And the lyrical content came together pretty quick one afternoon in my house with this little piano, and it really is a good song. I think it's one of the finer songs we got, and it turned out to be one of the most popular in the wake of everybody thinking it was a little bit too cheeky.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it. When we had all the material completed and we're getting ready to select the sequencing of the songs, it was generally thought, well, this song doesn't fit with the rest of the material. And a couple of us, including me, were going, oh, it's a beautiful song. I was saying, you should go the end of the second side when people are listening to it at night, and that's how the whole thing ends. All the feathers settle from Dead or Alive and all that stuff, and it flows right out, and it turns out to be one of the most popular songs from the album.
I'll tell you a story, though. That song almost didn't even make it on the album. That song almost got dropped because it had so much up and downness. I mean, everybody was going, gosh, I don't know. Well, what do you think? Gosh, I still like it. Well, I don't know if I still like it. And it was going back and forth. It almost didn't make it on the album. Now, that would have been pretty silly, huh? But it did.
I like all the songs. I've really, grown attached to all of them. since I've heard them so many times, you either, if you play them that many times, you either have to really like it, or you have to just, you know, get through it. But fortunately enough, I really like the songs. But I think if my favorite song, if I had to pick one, I think I would pick Mother Father.
Some of the better songs I think were conceived on the road because it's just the environment. To be able to walk into a big coliseum like that with no people in it, and it echoes real nice, it's inspirational. Sort of gives you ideas, you know. At least it does for me. And I bring my cassette player with me and you know, record everything and listen to it later and try to make some heads or tails of it, put it pieces to pieces, you know.